Have you ever had something you thought was nefarious turn out to be innocent? I think it might be one of life's better gifts. Here's how it happened to me. I never thought a ladder, a loose shingle, and one bad step would change my whole routine, but there I was, 37 years old, construction worker, temporarily useless, with my right leg in a heavy cast that made me look and feel like Frankenstein's monster. The doctor had said 6 to 8 weeks. My brain heard life sentence. The first few days home weren't so bad. I binged the new Netflix shows I was into, and my buddy Rick dropped off some barbecue and a six-pack. Those first few days were a welcome vacation in many ways. My mom called every few hours to ask if I was keeping it elevated. By day 4, the novelty of people feeling sorry for me had worn off, and also around that time, endless Netflix and not being out in the world had lost all its charm. By day 5, I was staring at the ceiling and debating whether I should learn crochet just to keep from losing my mind. That's when I discovered the sweet relief of online shopping. It started innocent enough, things I actually needed. A replacement phone charger since mine was held together by duct tape. A fresh pack of socks because, well, you can never have too many socks. A few odds and ends, batteries, light bulbs, a new tape measure, useful things. Then, like most addictions, it escalated. A novelty mug shaped like a toilet bowl? Why not? A set of neon green shoelaces, even though my right foot wouldn't see a shoe for another 6 weeks? Into the cart. A beer can cozy with "I identify as water" printed on it. Add to cart, add to cart, add to cart. Every day became Christmas morning. I'd hear the dull thunk on my porch and feel that little rush of joy. I couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do much, but hey, I had packages. Each one felt like a small happy surprise, even though I knew what was inside. Then something strange started happening. Packages disappeared. The first time, I figured it was me. Maybe I just thought I hit buy now when I hadn't. The second time, I started wondering if the delivery guy was leaving things at the wrong house. By the third time, when I got the email, "Your package has been delivered," with a picture of it on what was clearly my porch, it became obvious someone was stealing my stuff. At first I laughed about it. Who would even want the junk I was buying? Then I got mad. Angry, restless, helpless. There's nothing worse than feeling helpless. It's one thing to be stuck in a cast, another to have some jerk making you the neighborhood target. I decided I was going to catch whoever was stealing from me. I didn't care if it took binoculars or bait boxes. I was bored out of my mind anyway. Might as well turn detective. From my couch, with its sagging cushions, with my ankle propped up on pillows and my coffee table cluttered with empty cans of ginger ale and a pile of mail I hadn't opened, I had the perfect vantage point to watch the street. My blinds were tilted just enough so I could see out without being obvious. To anyone outside, my house looked dark, quiet, like nobody was home. My street wasn't exactly high crime. We were a cul-de-sac off a bigger suburban road, lined with single-story houses built in the 50s, the kind with tired brick fronts and yards that all looked the same. The people matched the houses, predictable. Retired folks who mowed once a week, families with kids who left bikes in the driveway. The only neighbors I really knew were Jim next door, who had the neatest lawn in the neighborhood and seemed to spend his entire retirement in cargo shorts holding a weed whacker, and Teresa, a single mom across the street and a couple houses down, who ordered even more Amazon boxes than I did and usually had her teenage son hauling them inside. Straight across the street was Ethel. Sweet old Ethel in her early 80s, gray hair done up in curls like she was always ready for church. She waved at everyone and spent half her day on the front porch in good weather. There wasn't a soul in this neighborhood I would have pegged as a thief. But 3 packages gone? The next day I set up to watch. The delivery guy showed up at 2:30. I'd ordered a magnetic wristband that could hold nails, screws, drill bits, anything I might need to keep hold of at work. He plopped the box down on the porch, snapped a photo for proof, and left. I settled in. The street was quiet for a while. A dog walker went past. A minivan slowed, turned into Teresa's driveway, and one of her kids carried a stack of packages inside. A couple of kids zoomed by on scooters. Nothing out of the ordinary. Then at about 4:15, I blinked. dozed for, I swear, 90 seconds, and the box was gone. I hobbled to the door on my crutches and yanked it open. Nothing. Porch empty, yard empty, street empty. I stood there in the late afternoon sun, my cast itching, my temper boiling. How in the world had they done it? That night I couldn't sleep. I sat with my laptop Googling package thieves caught on camera and watching a whole rabbit hole of YouTube videos. People had tried everything. Glitter bombs, fake boxes filled with bricks, motion sensors that set off alarms. The thieves always seemed cocky, confident, certain they could grab and go before anyone noticed. If they wanted to play games, I'd play too. It took a couple of days because I had to Amazon a prank glitter bomb to my buddy Rick's house to guarantee that I could take possession of it. He brought it over with another 6-pack a couple nights later, and I told him about the porch pirate situation. The prank package was a small tube, which, when the end was opened, would shower the recipient with glitter dust, sure to cling to them for eons. It wasn't exactly bank heist dye, but it would put the thief on notice. The next morning, I put it on the porch as soon as I got up. At 4:15, I saw her. She moved shockingly quickly, small, sure-footed steps, though she was bent at the waist a bit. Ethel. My heart did something weird, a mix of victory and guilt that I hadn't expected. Of course it would be Ethel. She was the one constant on the street, the one who sat on her porch most days, who waved, who smiled as if she'd been waiting to greet the world all morning. She paused at the edge of my property, tilted her head, and looked at the tube, which was the glitter bomb. For a second I thought she might just sit and stare, but then she moved up the walk, taking the steps with renewed speed. Her hands picked up and examined the little tube like it was an amazing archaeological artifact, delicate and precious. Then she tugged on the cap on the end exactly where it said she should open it. The pop-up sound was very quiet, but the cascade of glitter was amazing. I wouldn't have thought a tube that size could contain as much glitter as poofed into Ethel's face and covered her head to toe in sparkling, multicolored bits. It was not a subtle sprinkle. For a beat there was silence. Then Ethel's hands came to her face. She didn't scream, she didn't run. She blinked. The glitter stuck to her eyelashes, to the lines at the corner of her eyes, to her hair like some psychedelic metallic frost. She looked bewildered in that slow, soft way elderly people sometimes do, when the world does something unexpected and new, and they're trying to decide if it's good or bad. And then she smiled. It wasn't what I expected. It was a wide, easy smile that felt like it belonged to someone remembering a good joke or a nice moment. She looked around at the other houses as if she hoped someone would share this with her. She looked right at my window, saw me, and gave me a wave, glitter dropping off her cardigan. I pushed myself to my feet, crutches in my hands, as I hobbled quickly to the door, in the ungraceful, urgent way a man with only one good leg can. I threw the door wide. Ethel stood there on my porch, hands back at her face, glitter dusting her eyebrows. She looked like a fairy godmother after a bar fight. She blinked up at me, and the smile widened until her whole face warmed. "Oh," she said, and it came out sounding thrilled. "What a lovely surprise." For a second, I didn't know what to do. I'd expected to be furious. I'd catch a thief and haul them through the street, deliver them to justice. I'd imagined the satisfaction of revealing the culprit. Instead, the anger had been replaced by, well, a tenderness. Watching Ethel there in the glitter, looking pleased rather than guilty, something in me was undone. "Ethel," I asked, "what are you doing with my package?" She tilted her head, considering the word like it needed translation. "Package," she said slowly, as if each syllable were something she had to consider. "I just like to see what's inside." I blinked. "So you take packages?" She nodded. "I bring them back," she added, as if that settled it. "I bring them to my house sometimes. I like to see surprises." Something in my ribs loosened and tightened again. "Ethel, did you know... well, do you live alone?" She looked at me with those clear, untroubled eyes. "Yes." I forget sometimes about the mailman. He doesn't always stop at my house." She smiled as if that explained the whole of human behavior. "And I like to find things." By then, the neighbors had started to notice. Jim was at his fence, his brow furrowed, his eyes taking in the glitter storm like a man watching someone else's barbecue get rained on. Teresa was standing in her door with groceries in hand. Kids from a couple houses down had stopped, mid-bike ride, to stare, mouths open in delight at the unexpected sparkle. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to ask why someone would help themselves to someone else's things, even if they were just looking. But Ethel's smile held me like a warm hand. There was no malice there. There was curiosity, plain and simple. The tiny mischief, the way she twinkled now, felt less like criminal intent, and more like an old person rediscovering the small joys in the world. "Do you have anyone who comes by?" I asked, because now I wanted the story to make sense. "My daughter visits sometimes," she said. "Sometimes she comes. Sometimes not. I forget when she says she'll come." It wasn't just the forgetting that made the word land heavy in the air. There was a fog to her answers, soft around the edges, polite. She wasn't lying. She wasn't conniving. She was missing pieces. Any trace of anger evaporated in a sudden puff, not unlike the glitter. "So you didn't mean to steal my stuff?" I asked because I had to hear it out loud, the thing I was beginning to suspect. Ethel shook her head quickly. "I would never steal," she told me, with some force behind the words. "I'd just like to know what's inside," she said again. "I put them back sometimes. It's just, sometimes I don't remember where they're supposed to go, but I don't take them to keep." She brushed her palm across her cardigan, flicking glitter. She looked apologetic and pleased at the same time. I had planned to catch a thief. I had planned to be a hero. Instead, standing here on my porch, which looked like the floor of a confetti factory, was a small, disoriented woman smiling as if the world had indulged her in a private joke. "All right," I said finally, because what else do you say when justice sagely folds into mercy? "Let's get you cleaned up." Ethel nodded like that was the most sensible thing in the world. "Would you like some tea?" she asked, and for a moment I forgot there was even such a thing as a wanted criminal. By the next day, word had gotten around to most everyone. The mysterious package thief was none other than Ethel, the sweet old lady. Neighborhood kids had been overheard calling her the Glitter Witch, and I had had a realization. The boxes had been a kind of entertainment for her, not unlike the way they had been entertainment for me. And in that I felt an odd kinship. Here I was, ankle in a cast, bored out of my mind, addicted to the thrill of a package hitting the porch. And there she was, older, confused, reaching for the same small jolt of surprise. We weren't so different. One afternoon I saw her standing in her yard holding a package she must have picked up from somewhere. It wasn't mine this time. She turned it in her hands like a child examining a seashell. I watched her carry it back inside, a little wobbly on her feet that day, and I worried. What if she tripped? What if she forgot what she was doing and left the stove on? That night I called her daughter. I had the number scribbled down from years ago, a community phone tree I'd gotten when I first moved in. I wasn't sure the number would still be good, but I dialed anyway. "Hello?" a tired voice answered. "Hi, this is Steve," I said awkwardly, "from across the street from your mom. I just wanted to talk." There was a pause. "What about her?" I explained as gently as I could about the packages, about the glitter incident, about how she smiled through it all. Her daughter sighed, a sound so heavy it felt like it crossed the phone line and settled in my living room. "Yeah," she said, "we've been noticing things, forgetting to turn things off, forgetting appointments. She won't admit it, of course, always brushes it off." "I figured it wasn't on purpose," I said. She says she likes seeing what's inside. She had a bunch of stuff stacked in the foyer. I've been helping get everything back to the right person." Another pause. "Thanks for telling me, and thanks for helping sort things out. I'll come by more often. I've been meaning to, but, work, kids, life. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. I get it. After that call, I felt less like a detective and more like a neighbor again. The next morning, I hobbled across the street on my crutches, carrying a small package in a grocery bag over one wrist, as I didn't have free hands. It wasn't anything special, just one of my endless impulse buys, a mug shaped like a black bowling ball with 3 finger pockets in the side of the mug and a handle. It was a silly object, but I'd wrapped it in bright paper. Ethel was on her porch, humming, sunlight catching on a few stubborn bits of glitter still stuck in her hair. "Morning," I said as I approached. She looked up, her face brightening. "Oh, hello." When I got there, I set the box down on the little table beside her. "This one's for you. No surprises, just a gift." Her hands trembled a little as she unwrapped it, eyes shining at the reveal. She laughed softly, delighted, as if I'd handed her treasure. "Oh, isn't that funny?" she said, holding the mug like it was made of expensive porcelain. "A bowling ball. I used to bowl, on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday." I didn't know, but I nodded. "Well, now you've got a reminder," I smiled. She patted my arm. "You're a nice boy." My online shopping took a drastic turn that day. I no longer ordered anything for me, but rather inexpensive trinkets Ethel could open every couple of days or so. They gave me excuses to walk over to check on her, to share a laugh when she opened some silly thing. One afternoon when I had sat with her on her porch to get off my crutches, she turned to me, her face thoughtful, and asked, "Now, what was your name again?" I froze a moment. We'd been neighbors for years, and she'd called me Steve a dozen times that week. But in that moment, it was gone for her, a hole in the fabric. "Steve," I said, keeping my voice calm. She nodded. "Ah, Steve, of course." She smiled like she'd found the word she was searching for. I smiled back, but inside something tugged at me hard. Dementia wasn't just forgetting packages. It was forgetting people. The next day, I called her daughter again. "She asked me my name yesterday," I told her, like she didn't know it. Her daughter sighed again. "Yeah, it's getting worse." "Have you thought about—" I hesitated, not wanting to be pushy. "Maybe having her stay with you?" "She doesn't want to leave her house," her daughter said quickly. "She's stubborn. You know how she is. She says she's fine. She always says she's fine." I did know. Ethel's smile could convince anyone she was fine, but I'd seen the holes forming. That night, lying on the couch, I thought about what it meant to get dementia, to have the edges of your life fray until the whole quilt came undone. And I thought about glitter, how it clings, how it lingers in bits long after you think the last of it is gone. Maybe memories are like that too. You think they're gone, and then you find some still clinging. I would be back to work soon, but I knew I would do everything I could to help Ethel stay in her home as long as possible. I had a new neighborhood goal, much more positive than the one I'd started out with. And something had changed for me. I remember the porch pirate incident, and then I remember Ethel in my mind's eye, with her hands to her face, glitter in her eyelashes as she grinned softly. There's a lot of bad in this world, but it just isn't always so. Thank you for joining me for this story. If you enjoyed this reading, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss future uploads. Leave us a comment and let us know what kind of story you'd like to hear next. This has been Tales by Rachel, where we breathe life into every story.